Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest is a campus recruiter and internship program lead. Estavian is dedicated to creating inclusive and meaningful early career experiences. As a proud U of M and NYU alum, she's passionate about social justice advocacy, committed to advancing diversity and belonging. Outside of work, Estavian loves to travel, explore new cultures, and fuel it all with excellent coffee. Ain't that the truth with the coffee? But Estavian, I'm so pumped to have you on the podcast today. Walk us through. Obviously, you love to travel. You love your coffee. Have you always wanted to be this advocate or this type of social justice person? What was it like growing up, or what were you really passionate about as a kid?
Yeah, that's a great question. So happy to be here. Yes, I love coffee. That's going to probably come up at some point. But as far as like my journey and what I guess contributed to me having such a strong passion for social justice is growing up, I went to a private school. I was one of the only Black women in my class. Navigating that space was new to me, being one of the only. And then I actually had a big transition into the public school system. And once I was in the public school system, I still felt left out because although there were a lot of other students who looked like me, I still felt really different. And that started to show up in different circles, like how I didn't match, I guess, what was the status quo for how I was supposed to be as a young Black woman in those spaces. And so I pretty much had to find my way through it. Like, okay, what does this mean? How do I show up? How do I really make sure that I'm being my authentic self in all of these spaces, even if I don't necessarily fit what is the status quo? And so through the years of middle school, that's when I really was struggling trying to figure that out. But I will really say that took a turn once I started high school. Once I was in high school, I got very involved. So I was a cheerleader. I did sideline cheerleading and competitive cheer all 4 years of high school. And I think that was like a very defining experience for me because one, I found my voice and I wasn't scared to just be different and just speak up. And so my voice was just so, I guess, unique or different that, you know, I'm the cheerleader that set us up at the beginning, the ready set. That was me setting the tone for the team every time. And that was really like a definitive moment for me as well, being able to speak as a cheerleader, but also being able to navigate different spaces. And so I was pretty much like the one friend that was friends with all of the different friend groups. And so it's like, you know, the nerds, the jocks, the cheerleaders, like Estavian's name was known in all of these spaces somehow, some way. Like, how do you have all these different kinds of friends? And I think that really grew from my experience being one of the only in most spaces, like having to really become more adaptable and understanding different demographics and how to like fit in within different demographics. And so I think high school really helped me with that as well. So I was very balanced. I was very involved, but I also was very involved in my academics as well. And so I was very well-rounded. That's where I was like, oh, I guess I am kind of smart because I can like get straight A's and like still be a competitive cheerleader and a sideline cheerleader and figure this life thing out. And so I also, once I started to figure out like what I wanted to do next, my dad really drilled into my head, like, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college. Although he didn't go to college and neither did my mom. And so that was a new space. I just knew that my dad wanted me to do this thing and he thought I was going to be really good at it. And so I don't know, decided to do it anyways and apply to different institutions. And my top choice was the University of Michigan, which obviously is a big deal. And so I'm like, oh, this is like really a big deal that I got in here. And so that was my top choice. And I ended up going to the University of Michigan for undergrad. I was a first generation college student. So like I said, brand new space for not only me, but just my parents learning how to navigate that. And so that was a beast in itself. Like I went from feeling it out in high school, finding my place in high school, to going to the University of Michigan and everybody being excellent. Like the bar was just so much higher. I was like, wow, okay, so I was the best at my high school, but once I got here, everyone's the best. Like we all were the best.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh my goodness, like, am I actually that smart? I don't know. Like I have to figure this out. And so I really took every opportunity that I could to figure out what I was passionate about. I had no idea what I wanted to major in, like absolutely none. I'm like, major, like I have to figure this out now. Like career, I have to figure this out now. And so I really just was dabbling in everything that I could. And what drew me ultimately, and I think that it goes hand in hand with my passion for social justice, is that I took a sociology 101 course and I was like, wow, like, first of all of the things that I knew made sense really make sense right now. I'm like, wow, so many things that I experienced growing up, I couldn't necessarily name it or understand that experience until I came to learn more about sociology and how all of these societal structures just build out and show up in different ways in people's lives. And so through that experience, I actually also decided to join a Greek organization. So I'm a part of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and I pledged my second year of undergrad, and that was transformative. Wow. Going from being at a high school, which was very mixed, there was a lot of different types of backgrounds, but it was predominantly Black and Hispanic. And then going to the University of Michigan, being a predominantly white institution, I really was seeking out like a community. I'm like, well, where are my like people now that I know that, there's lots of other people here, but where can I find like those community connections? And so that's ultimately what led me to becoming a part of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. And that was pivotal in itself as well. After becoming a part of a Greek organization, it kind of became my identity in a lot of ways. And because once I went from being just a Estavian, I went from being an SGRO. So it's like, everyone knew me as an SGRO on campus, which was exciting because everybody knew me. But at the same time, I'm like, wait, like, what does this mean? And so that also helped shape my undergraduate experience. And I got exposure to a lot of different just areas where social justice was necessary. And so through that experience, like I came out to my friends and my family as a part of the LGBTQ community, and just trying to represent what that looks like too, figuring that out at the same time as navigating all these new spaces. But at the same time, it was very empowering to show up differently than others in these spaces. So although going to the University of Michigan, having to find my community in terms of finding others that look like me, but also having to find a community of LGBTQ identified people, like that was also a challenge too, because it's like I had to choose, how do I want to show up today? Do I want to show up as a Black woman, or do I want to show up as a queer woman? Or can I show up as a Black queer woman? Like, what does that even look like? So I had to figure that out too, and think about like the intersectionality, like, of my identities, and how sometimes I feel like, showing up more as a Black woman. Sometimes I feel like showing up as simply a queer woman. And sometimes I get the privilege to show up as all of that and what that looks like. So, yeah.
And you bring up such a good point that I always forget about, because I was the same way. Like I went to public school, I went to Catholic school first, then public school, then went away to school, then just like, what is this? And then it's just finding your group or your people is so important too, and where you show up as yourself, because you do. And it's not necessarily, putting on different masks, and sometimes it is, but it's oftentimes having to navigate those changes. And how do you want to show up as yourself? I mean, I'm like, did we have the same upbringing? Both my parents didn't go to college either.
Wow.
Navigating college wasn't a question. It was like, dive into that. But as you've navigated these quite literally different transitions, I mean, what's kind of your thought process? Is this scary as hell? Or if you're like, I got this, like, go off. I mean, rushing a sorority, that's huge. I mean, there's just so many pivotal moments, and especially in your late teens, early 20s, that's just like, oh shit, I have to figure this out now. So how do you kind of show up, or what kind of has run through your head in those various environments you've been in?
Well, one thing I can say that I think it's like a gift. I definitely think it's a gift that it's not hard for me to simply show up as myself. So I think throughout my life experience, I've been able to really learn, like I said, how to adapt to different situations, but not lose like the core of who I am. Even if I'm attempting to blend in a group, like it usually is like a seamless process, because I simply show up as myself, and people like respect that, and people really like that about me. That's always like, my friends and family tell me this all the time, like, that is just so Estavian of you. Like, that is just, you are just so Estavian. And I'm like, thank you.
Thank you.
I know that has to be a great thing. I'm like, the fact that you all say this, it has to be a great thing. And I think the reason why they say that is because I just simply show up as me. Like, I think about what is it that would make me proud of myself at the end of the day. And so joining that Greek organization, I'm like, I would be really proud to go through something that takes a lot of grit and resilience to be a part of this grander organization. Like, it took a lot for me. It wasn't an easy, like, I just go and sign up. Like, I had to figure out which organization mission and values really resonate with who I am as a person. Where will I feel included? Because that's something that I really care about. And I want to promote that same community around me. I've always been the person, like, in work, outside of work, like the person who brings everyone together. I'm very much a community builder, and that's without me even trying. That's just simply me just being who I am. And so I think that that really helps me navigate different spaces, because I'm always thinking about, like, who's not in the room? How are their voices being incorporated into, whatever decision making it is? And a lot of times I'm the first in those spaces to bring that up. So I definitely consider myself a trailblazer, because these opportunities haven't been afforded to everyone. And so I feel like it's my job and my mission and my purpose to make sure that I'm creating those experiences for others too, which I think bleeds into the work that I now do today.
It totally does. And I think it's interesting too, going back to high school and the different friend groups, because I also was the same way, like, not trying to compare experiences, but I'm like, yep, I feel that. You are way smarter than me, way better at academics than I am, because U of M, and if for those of you that don't know, like, U of M, like, it is so hard to get into. So, I mean, it is not even if you had like a parent go there that you're guaranteed. I mean, It is tough. So kudos to you for that, for our out-of-staters that are out-of-country listeners here. And I think when you think of like the bringing people together and coming from your own experiences of like, oh, I know what it felt like to be the outsider who's not in the room, and you are someone that is more extroverted, or I feel like it's like, here, come here, my little kitties that are introverted, like, let me help you. But it's so important. And even meeting you, because, we met first virtually and then meeting in person, you just exude this energy that I'm like, best hugger, just like, who's here? And even just watching you navigate those rooms, it's like, oh, you want to come sit here? Or, hey, you're sitting by yourself, like, you come over here. It just reminded me when we were having lunch of like high school cafeteria of like, who's sitting alone? And I'm like, you are just so nice. I just want to hang out with you all the time. So I'm not surprised by the work you do. You graduate from U of M, you go to NYU. I mean, moving. Oh,
yeah. That was a transition.
That's a big transition. New York is not for the faint of heart. It's a whole different than the Midwest. So
trust me, I learned a lot. So just to fill the gap. So once I actually graduated from University of Michigan, I decided to do a gap year, and I did a year of service with AmeriCorps. So this is pivotal to me ending up at NYU. So when I did a year of service, I actually worked for a nonprofit called College Forward. And essentially I served as a completion coach. And so I was a peer mentor to first generation low income students in the greater Houston area. And when I tell you that experience alone was just like so eye opening, one, it was very nice to be able to service the communities that I come from, but also two, I was like, wow, I really enjoy coaching these students and helping them succeed, because ultimately I just wanted them to complete college. That was the goal. And I got to be around for a year or two during their undergraduate experience and really coach them on like, what does financial aid look like? How do we complete this? Like, how do we find career services? What does that even look like? I know as a first gen, I didn't know any of these things. And so I was trying to fill those gaps for other students. And through that experience, it opened up my eyes to pursuing a career in student affairs. That is really where I was like, okay, this is like a thing that I can like study on like a master's level. I'm like, this sounds really cool. So I started to look into different programs, and I stumbled upon because it literally, I wasn't even necessarily thinking about NYU, but I came across their program actually in higher education and student affairs, and it sounded amazing. I'm like, wow, this sounds really cool. Like, I would love the opportunity to participate in this. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot my shot and see what happens. They may or may not accept me.
Yep.
And so the icing on top of that cake was that it was free for me to apply, since I was doing a year of service with AmeriCorps. And so they waived my application fee. I'm like, I have nothing to lose.
Right.
Like, I might as well just see what happens. And so I applied, and actually the first time that I ever been to New York City, one, I was by myself. Two, I was there for interview days for my graduate program. So this was like a beast in itself. First solo trip, having to figure this out. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go and see what happens. And so as part of me getting admitted to the program, I had to solidify what they called an assistantship. And so it's basically an internship that will help pay or fill in some gaps when it comes to your financial aid package. And so I interviewed with over 20 jobs, 20 different companies while I was there. And I had to rank basically like which ones were my favorites, and they had to rank which one of us were their favorites. And so it actually was like a match made in heaven that my top choice, I was also their top choice. And so I ended up going to Pace University and working within their student developments and campus activities office, where I got to oversee, one, the multicultural program side of things, but also orientation programs. So those were my two things that made up my bread and butter within student affairs. And that experience at NYU alone, like, changed my life. One, I got to study abroad in India and study their higher education system. That was one of the coolest experiences that I have ever had. Like, biggest culture shock. I'm like, oh, wow, like, there's just so much of the world that I need to see. And so I was really fortunate to be able to do that as part of my higher ed program at NYU. But I also got the opportunity to work a summer internship at Duke University working with their orientation programs. And that was very eye-opening as well. A very different student demographic, but really cool to be able to leave my mark on that program and work with their orientation leaders for a summer. And then after that, I'm like, what's next? What is next for me? And so I actually participated in, so it's called NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And they have a pretty big job fair that takes place for all student affairs professionals each year to pretty much help graduate students, solidify a job within student affairs. And so I attended that. And it's very similar to how it was when I went through the program to find an assistantship. It's basically like a ranking system. You rank different companies, they rank you. And once again, I ended up with my top favorite, which I was also their top favorite, which was at Purdue University. Yes, it worked out. Honestly, it was in the stars. And so I ended up accepting a position within orientation programs at Purdue University. And so that was my first post-grad job, because this was after my master's program. And I moved to Indiana, first time there. Although I'm from the Midwest, this was a very interesting experience for me. Definitely went back to being one of one. Like, there weren't many people in the area who looked like me, young professionals, on top of being a young professional who was part of the queer community as well. Like, it was very hard for me to find my community connections, but the work that I was able to do was so impactful. So I got to work with student leaders specifically who are creating experiences to help other students learn about diversity initiatives at Purdue University. So I created what is called a cultural immersion project, where all of the students were assigned a different cultural center on campus where they had to immerse themselves in that culture, learn about, what are the students that they service, what are the different things that they have going on, where they can learn about different topics that affect specific cultures. And that project actually led me to get an award at Purdue, which is called the Bravo Award. And that was for my commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and pushing those initiatives for students at Purdue. So that was also a very memorable moment, because for me, I'm like, I'm just doing what I'm passionate about and hoping that people care. And they're like, wow, Estavian, like, you're really opening up doors for students here to explore different cultures. Maybe they would have never gotten the chance to do that otherwise. And so all in all, that experience and that work was super impactful. I love what I was doing. I felt like on a daily basis, like, there were students who were like, Estavian, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your leadership. I'm so grateful to be able to work with you. And that was like the best part about working within student affairs for me. There was no shortage of thank yous. There was no shortage of me being reminded on a daily basis that I was where I was supposed to be. But it was also really tough at times because I worked a lot. I worked so much. Oh my goodness. I'm like, when do I get a break? And when I tell you I was the first person in my office that actually took PTO, I'm like, wait, so like y'all just get this PTO and you don't take time for yourselves? Like, oh, well, I'm going to take some.
Yeah.
Like, Estavian, you taught me that I need to use my PTO.
That is wild.
Oh, yes, it is so wild, because for me, that is where I recharge. Like the time that I take off where I'm able to travel and see the world, like that supplements like the impact that I'm able to make on a daily basis. That helps me keep going. That motivates me. And so I've always been very like passionate about ensuring that I can still get those experiences, probably even more so when I'm working hard because I feel like I deserve it even more. And so throughout that experience, I was at Purdue for about 2.5 years. I really wanted to try something new. I wasn't sure that I wanted to stay within student affairs only because I was ready to try a new sector, like just try something new out in the industry. What is something different out there that I can like apply my skill set to and it still be very meaningful and impactful? And so that's kind of how I made the decision that I wanted to transition into the corporate sector.
And what was that transition like?
So there were a lot of my friends who were breaking into the corporate sector by going into campus recruiting. So there was a lot of friends that I already knew that were doing this. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like, what made you want to switch it up? Or like, how did you transition? So I really started networking. I started networking. I was joining Facebook groups talking about leaving higher ed and like breaking into a new space. I was reaching out to folks who I knew made the switch, like picking their brains. I really was leveraging my network to understand what that looked like. And I also had a career coach who helped me with a career transition. So that was also very beneficial. And that was really about transitioning the jargon. Like, what does the jargon look like within the corporate sector as opposed to higher ed? How can I make this make sense to someone who's not coming from higher ed? And so I really retailored my materials and practice, and had to make it make sense to me in order for me to translate that to others. And so I just started applying to jobs. I had my career coach. He was very helpful. At first, I was receiving a lot of no's. It's a risk. Like you're coming from a different sector. Yes, you have a lot of transferable skills, but can you really walk the walk and talk the talk within the corporate sector? But I didn't let that deter me because, as I said, I'm a trailblazer and I wasn't going to stop until I got that one yes. And so I eventually got that one yes, which is where I ended up now at Amway leading their internship program. And when I tell you there was a very mutual excitement for me to join, like, wow, like, first of all, it's always my personality. That is always the first thing, like, wow, you have such a great personality. But on top of that, you have really great experience. And we would love to see how this will show up at Amway. And so, like I said, I got my first yes. And I was very excited about that. And I've been at Amway ever since. So it's literally been going on 3.5 years now. So it's been some time, been really great. I've learned so much. I've contributed a lot just having my background that I have. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at now.
How do you get through? I mean, because it's so tough. I mean, the market right now can be difficult in figuring out what you want to do. And for those days where because it's hard of just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to show up. I don't want to apply to another job. But what kind of kept you like, I just got to get one yes. And then finding out, I mean, it was mutual love in every sector of your life thus far. So what did you kind of go through that process and make sure you were still on track for where you wanted to be?
I would say that my career coach helped me a lot, like stay on track and not get too discouraged. Like, it was very helpful understanding, like, I wasn't the only one at the time trying to break into this space. Like, my coworker at the time was also trying to break into the space, and he was receiving a lot of no's, and that was really hard for him. It was hard for both of us. But I think, one, really having my career coach constantly reminding me, you got this. You don't have to stop with this no. Like, the reality is you're going to receive a lot of no's because you're trying to break into a new space. Like, it's going to be automatically harder for you. There are people who are applying for this job who already have years of experience in this. So you need to use your differences as your superpower. And that really stuck with me. I'm like, I want to talk about what makes me different because I feel like it's what makes me stand out. It's what makes me better than the rest. Like, I'm able to bring different experiences, like just in my life in general, but also having that drive, like having that motivation. So hearing it constantly from my career coach, keep going, but also just believing in myself. Like, I know that I broke into a lot of spaces that I was the first of in my life. So this was no different. I was treating it the same way. I'm like, the bag is going to be secured one way or another. It doesn't matter if it takes me 3 months or 6 months or however the case is. Like, I'm not going to stop until I get what I want. And so that drive has just always been in me, and it was instilled in me by my dad at a young age, and I just never stopped. He's like, Estavian, no one's going to tell you no. Like, and if they tell you no, that means that a yes is coming from somewhere else. Like, you're going to get it. And so really just leaning on my support system during that time was really helpful. And like I said, all it took is that one yes. So
that's incredible. And it makes sense too. And I was not her career coach because we met after, but this is not a plug. But it's so important to like hire other people or just know when you need support. I mean, whether it is a career coach or in my case, a business coach or whatever that may be, because that's just so important. It's hard. I mean, there's like, the world is your oyster, but where do I find the oyster? Like, where is it at? So that's such an important note of just like having someone to keep you accountable and get you to where you need, because it is tough. What's in store for you for what's next or what you're focusing on right now?
Yeah, so we are currently closing out internship season at Amway, and it's a really exciting time because we do a pretty large like send-off event for our interns where we get to celebrate them. So I'm really looking forward to that, like, you know, just formally giving them a goodbye and closing out this cycle. And for all of my campus recruiters out there, you know the struggle. You end the program and you're automatically going into recruiting. Like there's no break in between. And so buckle up for that, all of you campus recruiters out there. But as far as what's in store for me, two things. So one thing is on a more personal side. As I stated before, I'm super passionate about traveling, and I am the planner of my group. So I am the one who is leading the effort in all of the planning for all of my groups. I've planned trips all over the world. And so my friends are always telling me, Estavian, you're really good at this. Like, you should be a travel agent. Like, even if you're doing it part-time, just break into the space. Like, you're doing it already. You might as well get paid. And I've teetered with that a lot because I'm like, I don't want this hobby to turn into something that I really hate because, you know, I turned it into a job. But I don't want to also let the fear of failing stop me from just trying. And so I'm planning on breaking into the travel industry and becoming a part-time travel agent. That is my next big move personally. It hasn't happened yet, but when it does, I think it's going to be great. So that's one major thing. And then as far as my career goes, so I actually got a really cool opportunity to join a new space within Amway on the talent development and management side. And so instead of me developing the interns, I am going to be developing internal talent at Amway. And so helping the folks at Amway level up in their careers and figure out what's the next big thing that they can do at Amway. And I'm really excited about that because this is a new demographic for me to be able to work with. But I'm excited about the opportunities that will come with that. I'm very passionate about working with people and building relationships. And so I think that this is very transferable in these spaces. And so I'm just excited to see where talent development and talent management take me next. But yeah, that's what's coming.
Well, congratulations on both incredible things. I want to be you when I grow up. Like, damn, okay, go off. And I like that you brought up the whole, like, don't want to hate your hobby and make it professional because you don't have to monetize everything. I mean, that's also true, but it's like, well, why not get paid if I'm really good at it, right? So I kind of look at it, but that's awesome. I mean, you are just such an incredible human. I'm excited to see what you continue to do. So as we wrap this up, what advice do you have for listeners? The extremely loaded question I ask, you know.
Yes. So when I was thinking about this before, I had it perfectly written down and then it completely left my head. So this is just off the heart. I would have to say, give yourself patience. And I say that in every aspect of your life, like really having patience for yourself and getting to where you want to be is so important. There were definitely times where, you know, I didn't think that I would be where I'm at now. Like if I would have rested on the nose and rested on like the fact that it wasn't happening as quickly as I wanted to, then I wouldn't have got to where I am today. And in addition to that, I will also say it is so much fun being a trailblazer. It's so much fun. Like being the first to enter a space comes with its challenges, but it is so much fun because you literally get to make your mark in the way that you want to. And that's something that always keeps me going. So don't be scared to be a trailblazer in different spaces. Like you might be the first, but you're probably not going to be the last. And so keep going, keep going. That's my advice.
walk so those after you can run. As I love that whole like our aunties and our grandmas and all the women before us like walked so we can run and everything like that. But Estavian, you are just an incredible human being. I am so excited for the future with you. So if you're listening to this, you want to connect with Estavian or see what she's got going on, head to the show notes and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.